Hi, welcome to our material on Extreme Gittin, beginning with the two Mishnayot in Gittin, Perek Zayin, and moving on to the Gemara in Ketubot, Daf Bet Amud Bet to Gimel Amud Aleph. We've already covered the Mishnayot, so I'm going to begin here with the Gemara, which again is in Ketubot. It is not the Gemara on these Mishnayot, which are in Gittin, but it does reference the material in these Mishnayot and builds off those concepts. Amar Rava, u'inyan gittin eino ken. Rava says, with regard to gittin, when it comes to gittin, this is not the case. As I mentioned in class, the conversation here is about what happens when a marriage gets delayed, who's financially responsible to take care of whom. Do we take into account the fact that, let's say, unforeseen circumstances, inevitable bad things have happened to put off the wedding? Do we say, well, it's really no one's fault, or do we say that it's someone's fault? And how do we work that out? So Rava says when it comes to gittin, that's not the case. We don't take inevitable circumstances. We don't take unforeseen circumstances into account. And I'm going to make this a statement. And I want to make it clear again that it's Rava speaking here. Ama kasava Rava ein onus begittin. Consequently, it must be that Rava believes, ein onus begittin. We don't take onus into account when it comes to gittin. If someone issues a get on condition that some condition be fulfilled, and that condition is fulfilled, but only because of inevitable, terrible thing that happens that was unforeseen, it's still a get. We don't say, well, since the condition was only fulfilled through onus, we don't count it as though the condition has been fulfilled. Ein onus begittin, we don't take onus into account when it comes to checking if a get is valid. And this is also a statement. We can say this is also a statement. This is the Gemara's statement. So if I were going to distinguish between these two, I would say that this one is Rava speaking. This is the words of an Amora. And this one's not. This is the Stamma de Gemara. Minale la Ravaha. How does Rava know this? From where does Rava know this? This, of course, is a question. And the Gemara now goes through and tries to figure out a source for Rava's opinion. And you can see here, this is our Mishnah above, the Mishnah in Gittin, that gets quoted. So I'm going to highlight that in red because it's a Tana'itic quote. We won't go into it right now, but this is suggested as a possible source for Rava's opinion of ein onus begittin. But the Gemara dismisses it and says maybe death is different, maybe it's a different kind of onus, and the Gemara goes on from there. And there are other sources that are suggested. The Gemara continues to discuss this Mishnah, other Mishnayot in this section of Gittin. Ela Miseifa, there's another possibility, there's another possible source, but the Gemara keeps rejecting possible sources for Rava's opinion. And here's another possible source. Ela meha dehahu de amar lahu ilo atina mikan ve'ad tlatin yomin lehave gita. Maybe he gets it from the case of a person who says, if I don't come from now until 30 days, meaning if I don't come back in the next 30 days, let this be a get. Ata besof tlatin yomin, he comes at the end of the 30 days, upaske mivra, and the ferry is blocking him. He can't cross the water to get to her. There's onus, there's unforeseen circumstances. Amar lahu, he says to them, chazu da'ate, see, I've arrived, see, I've come, I've arrived. Amar Shmuel, lav shmei matya. And Shmuel, who is an earlier Amora than Rava, this could have been the source for Rava because he comes earlier, Shmuel says, lav shmei matya, we don't call this arriving. In other words, we don't take into account the onus factor here. We don't say, well, he would totally be there if it weren't for this ferry blocking, and so we should say it's only onus that kept him from getting there, and so the get should not take effect. No, ein onus begitten, we don't take that factor into account, and so we say that it is in fact a get. This doesn't count as coming. I'm going to say that all of this is a proof. It's an attempt for a source, it's an attempt to prove where Rava got his opinion from. But the Gemara actually rejects this in the next line and says, no, even though it's a good story, that's not Rava's source for saying ein onus begitten. Ella Rava svara denafshe kamar. Rather, Rava has his own svara. Svara, comes from savar, to hold. So Rava's theory, the thing that he holds, is denafshe, is his own. He is saying his own theory. He doesn't have a specific source for it. Mishum tsnuot umishum prutzot. Because of modest women and because of prutzot, because of, I think the literal translation would be licentious women who are the opposite of tsnuot. Mishum tsnuot. Now it's going to explain each side of this. Because of tsnuot, right? What does it mean to say that he holds ein onus begitten because of tsnuot? Di'i amarta lo lehave get. Because if we were to say that it should not be a get, in other words, if we were to take onus into account in gittin and say, you know what, he really tried to get there. Let's say that this is not actually a get because he would have fulfilled the condition, or he wouldn't have fulfilled the condition. He would have come back in time had it not been for the onus. If we were to say that, zimnin de lo anis. There will be times when it's not onus. V'savra da'anis. And this tsnu'ah woman will think that it is onus. Umi agna v'yatva. And she will be an aguna. She will be chained and sitting. In other words, if she knows that were it to be the case that he came only because he couldn't make it, he didn't come only because he couldn't. If she knows that in that case the get doesn't go through, she'll always be thinking to herself, well, maybe, okay, it's true, he said he was going to come back in 30 days and he hasn't come back, but maybe it wasn't his fault. And if it wasn't his fault, then it's not a real get. And so she'll always be trapped in this marriage because she'll always have this thought, this tsnu'ah woman will always have this thought in the back of her head. So that would be a downside of saying yesh onus begitten, of taking onus into account in gittin. Umishum prutzot, and this is his opinion is also because of prutzot, because of women who are again licentious, more likely to be sexually active, etc. Because if we were to say make this not be a get, right? Oops. Again, if we were to say yesh onus begitten, right? Let this not be a get because it wasn't his fault that he couldn't get back. Zimnin da'anis. There will be times when it really is onus. Ve'amra lo anis. And she'll say, you know what? I don't think it's onus. Ve'azla uminsaba. And she'll go and get married. Ve'nimtza get batel ubaneha mamzerim. And it'll turn out that the get is batel, right? The get isn't really a get because it was onus. And her children will be mamzerim. I would say that these two are explanations, or maybe I would put them also as the source, right? It turns out that the source of Rava's opinion is not a Breita or an earlier Amora or a Mishnah. It's his own svara, it's his own thinking, which gets explained here. Umi ikamide dimederaita lo lehave get. Umishum tsnuot umishum prutzot sharidan eshet ishla alma. Question mark, exclamation point. This should look familiar. This is a challenge. Is it really a thing? Is there really such a thing as having something where deoraita, it's not a get. Deoraita, the get has not gone through, right? It is not really a get, meaning it was onus, and so it's not really a get. Umishum tsnuot umishum prutzot, but because of this concern about tsnuot and prutzot, we permit a married woman to the world. In other words, making this parallel to our previous case, in this case, the Dirabanan is Rava's idea of ein onus begitten, right? He holds this idea, he wants to put in place this idea, but that would be a rabbinic idea overriding the fact that midoraita, the get is actually batel. There is no get anymore. Can we really have a case where just because of this rabbinic concern of tsnuot and prutzot, we can override the deoraita of this not being a get anymore, and say, you know what, it is a get, and we're going to permit this married woman to remarry. We're going to say she's no longer married. You can guess what the answer is going to be. In Kol de Mekadesh Adat HaDerabanan Mekadesh, Vafki'inu Rabbanan L'Kidusha Mineh. Yes, in fact, we can do that. The rabbis do have this power. Anyone who gets married does so on the authority of the rabbis, and the rabbis have removed his kedushin from him. Amar le Ravina le Ravashi. Ravina says to Ravashi, Tinach to Kadesh Bakaspa. Kadesh Babiyah mai ikal Meimar. Maybe also question mark, exclamation point. Ravina said to Ravashi, it works if he married her with money, because then you can do the hafka'at kiddushin. You can say, okay, we changed the money into just a gift, right? Fine. But if he married her with sex, what is there to say? What can we say in that case? Can we still undo the marriage in that case? That's a question. And the answer is Shavua Rabbanan lebi'ilato bi'ilat znut. Yes, we can. The rabbis equated his sex to casual sex. So they say, well, the fact that they had sex, that wasn't really to get married. That was really just casual sex, and we can still undo the Kiddushin. You can see that I've put some Rashis on this page to help you out. Specifically, the one on Midiraita Lo Habe Gitza, which you'll investigate in the homework, and we'll stop here.